Hi, Suzanne. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's been a lot of fun so far.
Yeah, this has been, we just have loved being able to do our book clubs from afar, and we just love also having the opportunity to talk to authors. So thank you again.
My pleasure.
So Suzanne, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you started writing?
Well, I've been writing pretty much my whole life, and when I was in 7th grade, I wrote my first historical romance novel.
Wow.
It was only like 75 handwritten pages, and yeah, I don't have it still, but I'm sure it was awesome because 8th grader volunteered to be my agent, so I know it must have been good, but unfortunately she didn't have many connections. So yeah, I've been writing. I was writing a lot of short stories in high school, but then I kind of went this path where I started working at a computer software company in high school, and they offered me a job, and I started working in the computer industry for years, which is not very exciting, which is why I still on the side would go into these imaginary worlds. And around 1996, 97, we were in a car accident and we were laid up for a few weeks afterwards. So I wasn't working as much. So that's when I wrote the first chapter of my first real historical novel, since middle school. And, and that was eventually was called Incognito. And it was published in 2001. And it was published by a small new imprint that had just started. It was started by Warner Books, Time Warner, but it was actually published in November 2001, and it was just right after September 11th. So it was not a good time to get a book published. And I hope nobody's listening, because the next major publishing deal is now in 2020, which is coronavirus and, a lot of major things going on too. So I don't know what that says about my career, but anyway, I'm here for round 2. So my first book was Incognito, and it was historical romantic comedy, Austen inspired. And then I wrote Mr. Malcolm's List as a follow-up to that, but the imprint closed its doors after publishing Incognito, and it was for sale still, but they were out of business. So it just sat on my hard drive for a while. And then, like you mentioned, in 2011, well, actually, I should back up a little bit. I did in 2006, I got the rights back to my first book, and then I published it and Mr. Malcolm's List on Kindle. So it was available on a limited basis. Oh no, I'm sorry, that was in 2009. Sorry, this is a long history here. I took the circuitous route to this.
I was gonna say, I only ask the biggest questions and get the longest answers, which is what I love.
So then, it was available, but it was not mass market published. But I had a few people who read it. There were a handful. And I remember somebody made the comment that they could really see it as a movie. And that kind of started me thinking, because I love to write dialogue, and I love dialogue. It's my favorite part of books, movies, anything. So I thought, well, what if I tried turning it into a screenplay? And so I did. I took the book and I adapted it into a script. And then a few more years went by. 2011, I uploaded it onto Amazon Studios. They were running a free screenplay contest, and it was a semi-finalist. And I actually got some calls from some producers there, but it kind of stalled again. They went through this huge, I don't know, fired everyone and got new people. I don't know, something like that. So then 2014, a new website started called The Blacklist. And The Blacklist was actually already a thing, but it was a list a list. We sense a theme here, but it was a list of the best unproduced screenplays every year as rated by like readers in Hollywood. So a man named Franklin Leonard began the Blacklist list, and it became a thing. And then he turned it into a website as well, where it was a database of scripts, and any screenwriter could upload their scripts and pay it wasn't a lot, a nominal fee to get a professional reader to read it, review it, and rate it. And if it was rated on a scale from 1 to 10, and if it got an 8 or higher, then industry execs would get an automated email. So producers, directors, people like that. So I uploaded the script, Mr. Malcolm's List, and it got a 9, which was quite shocking to me, because a very small percentage of the scripts even got an 8. It was a really, really, harsh scale. But anyway, it got a 9, and so that was in late 2014. And that's when I started getting phone calls. In 2015, the Blacklist also had a podcast called The Blacklist Table Reads, and they did a table read of my script, Mr. Malcolm's List, and a director heard the table read, and then she became attached, and that's how it eventually got optioned for a feature film. And in the meantime, they made the short film, which, like you mentioned, is available to view for free on YouTube. They made that, and as like a proof of concept, because as people may have noticed, the casting was not done traditionally. So they made that first, and it seems to be like really well received. So we're supposed to go into production. We were actually supposed to film it this summer, but 2020 coronavirus put an end to that. But I'm actually happy we didn't film this summer, because in the meantime, we've attached even more exciting actors. We had exciting actors, and now even more have joined. So just recently, Sam Hewen and Constance Wu both became attached to the feature film. So the plan is to shoot that hopefully early next year, barring any future disasters.
Yeah, I was so excited to see that Sam Hewen was cast in it. We are all, well, not all of us, but many of us are big Outlander fans. So that was a big aha.
I know. I was so excited to have him cast too, because he is the sweetest guy, and he's like making my book promotion so much easier. Like as soon as he got cast, it's like all of these fans of his are like, oh, we're gonna read the book. I'm like, oh, thank you, Sam Hewen, thank you.
So what kind of role do you have with the production of the film, and with the short before, but like with moving forward with the film, what's your role going to be like for that?
Well, I was able to fly to London when they did shoot the film. It was a 3-day shoot. Right now, I don't have much of a role. I assume for the short film, when I was on set, there were little things here and there where they would, it was funny. I don't know how many have seen the short film, but there's actually a part played by Divyan Ladwa, who is an actor who was in the movie Lion with Nicole Kidman and Dev Patel. He played Dev Patel's younger brother. And he is just an amazing actor. And it was funny because his role in Lion was so dramatic and so serious, and he is so hilarious in the short film. And he doesn't really have any lines. I think maybe one, but I think he has one line, because when I got there, the director was like, give him a line. Like, he's awesome, give him a line. So him, and actually the lady's maid, a Welsh actress, she was very cute and funny too. So they got a little line. So I guess my role is, typically when you go into a production, you have a writer on set, and if there's any lines that need edited or added, that's what I'll be there to do. So I hope to be there when the film is shot next spring, and then, hopefully there'll be other funny things that can be added. Or, I mean, the director, she has a really good sense of humor as well. And she added a couple little, you know, humorous things that weren't necessarily in the script either. So she gets it too. So that's really nice. And then Constance Wu, I'm really excited because she is just a wonderful comic actress. And her character is Julia Thistlethwaite, which is kind of, she's not a villain. She's a friend of the main character, Selena Dalton. But so many people, I've been shocked, like, that people are like really angry with Julia Thistlethwaite. And I'm like, I just think she's hilarious. And it was funny because I even had a close personal friend text me, and she was like, she made me so mad. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Like, I think she's very funny. I just love her. Like, she has no filter. I don't know. I just think she's funny. I'm sorry. I was trying to kind of read the comments at the same time.
Oh yeah, I know, they're super distracting down there.
I think everyone just got excited when I said the word Sam Hewen, so I'm just going to keep saying them.
Yep. It's like instead of SEO, it's Sameo, you know, get that Sam attached. It'll get everybody's attention. Well, and that's so interesting that you would say that, because I kind of agreed with the fact that I thought that she was sort of villainous, but also so fun. And I think that it's like, I wouldn't want to say an anti-hero specifically, but just sort of like, I guess, not the kind of character that you would expect to want to spend so much time with and then have such a great experience with her. How did you research that character and kind of develop her?
Well, it's funny. I feel like I have had a ton of friends like her. Maybe not to the extent that they, you know, dress up as me and, you know, try to, oh, I'm giving spoilers. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
I just gave a major spoiler if you haven't read the book. But I have had friends, I don't know. I think I have a very, I don't really, I was going to say like I have this personality where I'm peaceable, but that's not necessarily true either. I'm a little bit opinionated, but I will say yes to things if people just continually, persistently bother me, you know, like, okay, fine, I'll do it, you know. And I had a close friend, you know, in high school who was that way, and she got me to play a practical joke on someone, and I had no desire to do it. I didn't even know, I mean, she got me to do like, I mean, nothing super bad, because I will say no to super bad, to bad things, period. But this were just like little jokes, but things that I would not normally do, you know, that were outside my comfort zone. So anyway, I just feel like we all have that friend. I also, my sister is a little bit like that. She's just more dogged and determined than me about things. And so she can get me to do things like, I mean, and they're not bad things, but they're just like, if I don't want to go somewhere, she can make me go, just because it'll drive me crazy till I finally say, okay. So I felt like Julia was like that person, you know, that kind of person where she's just very persistent, and then she just keeps at it longer than the other person, and she gets her way. So I don't know. I really enjoyed her. She's one of my favorite characters of the book. And also Lord Cassidy is another one that I just thought, I loved him as well, just because he's so funny. And that was another neat thing about the short film when he got cast. That's Oliver Jackson Cohen is the actor. And the producers did send me like some reels of the different actors that they were considering. And I was like, no, he's not going to work. He's not funny. But all of the reels they sent me were serious. So I just had never seen him do anything funny. He was so hilarious to me. I loved him so much in the short film. He made me laugh just so much, just by his mannerisms. And I just thought he was the perfect Lord Cassidy or Cassie. So yeah, I was happy that I was wrong about him. Now I'm totally in love with him, and I can't wait to see him take on that role for the entire length of the feature.
Yeah, he did a movie many years ago where he played like a very sexy bad guy, but I just remember him being, I can't remember what movie it was, but I just remember him being very funny and also very naked, but very funny.
Well, he has played a lot of bad guys. Like he was in, I actually other than those reels, I have not seen anything he's been in because it's just not my type of thing. But he was also the Scarecrow in the remake of Oz. Okay. you girls know more than me. I do know that he was in The Haunting of Hill House, which was on Netflix, which was like a horror film, but I'm not a horror person. And he was just in, it was a pretty big, no, I'm not going to remember what it was. It was a pretty big remake, The Invisible Man, I think.
Oh yeah, he played the Invisible Man in The Invisible Man. Mm-hmm. That's right.
Roles very different from this humorous, bumbling, Lord Cassidy. So.
So what were you? Which cast is staying from the short and making it their way over to the feature? Like, because I know Constance is probably replacing Gemma. Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, right now, unfortunately, it could change again. But as of right now, yes, Gemma couldn't continue, and so Constance replaced her. Right now, everyone else is going to remain in the feature as of now. So unless, it's just so hard because actors, their schedules and conflicts, and it's almost a miracle to me anything gets made to get all those people with their schedules in one place at one time. So, and I think with 2020, the way it's been and having to pause so many productions, it's making it even harder than usual. But as far as I know, as far as this moment right now, all the ones from the short are going to reprise their roles except for Gemma.
Cool. So between writing the script and writing the book, I know the book came first and then the script and then the book again, what was more challenging for you? Which one did you find, and then which one did you find more joy writing?
Well, it's so funny because I just wrote another book, which is, it's going to come out next summer. Berkeley is going to release it. It's a follow-up to Mr. Malcolm's List. That's called Miss Latimore's Letter. And
Love it.
So it is so hard to write a book. I find it much, much easier to write a script. I think it's funny because I do love dialogue, and I just love writing. That's a script, unless it's an action film, which I don't write, but most of it is dialogue. So I just love being able to just write a very brief scene description and then get right into the conversations. So yeah, I prefer screenwriting, but then again, screenwriting, it's different because I've written other scripts that have been optioned, but they never see the light of day because they can't find a director, or everything doesn't come together. Mm-hmm. So you work really, really hard, and then only maybe a handful of people actually ever read it. Whereas with, a novel, it's the finished product. So whereas the script is kind of, I guess, kind of like architecture or something, until it's built, it's the in-between stage, I guess. But so I don't know, I guess, does that answer your question?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
But it was funny when you were talking about what's your favorite list. I agree with everybody. I write myriad to-do lists. But while I was working on this novel that I'm working on right now, I had this list of word count. Every day I would write how many words. And it was so funny because whenever I would have like writer's block, I would do math, like that would help. I'd be like, okay, I write this many words, and if I write this many more words, then, and how many days? And then I also had a due date, so I was frantically trying to somehow do math, like that was gonna save me, instead of writing my book. So anyway, that was one of my favorite lists, was the lists of how many words I got done every day.
Well, and I know, like, especially when you go from, like, with Mr. Malcolm's List, it had many years. You had all the time in the world to craft that story and to make it the way you wanted. And now that you get to be like that professional writer, it's like, oh crap, now I have to like stay on deadline and yes, be more concerned about things that I wasn't as concerned about.
Yeah, and then there's so much promotion too. So that takes a lot of your time, and which it's fun like this, but it's still like you have to. Mr. Malcolm's List was released the end of July, and I was right in the throes of working on this book. So yeah, it's different. It definitely is. But it was good because I I think I'm kind of a procrastinator. So if I don't have a due date, it would take a long time. So it's good that I had one.
All right, well, I have a couple of rapid fire questions for you. They're just short little questions. You can answer them however long you want, just that they're short from me. Okay, so my first question is, what is your favorite trope to read?
Oh, it's so funny. Everybody knows this right away, and I always read other people's, and I'm like, I have no idea. Like, okay, so oh my goodness, I don't know. I really don't have one. I'm just like, yeah, I'm sorry. Can I pass?
Yes, we can pass. It's fine. No worries. Well, so I know you're a big Jane Austen fan, and you like the farcicalness of that. What is your favorite Jane Austen book?
My favorite's Pride and Prejudice, for sure. But every time I write, like a book like Mr. Malcolm's List, my first book, and now this book I'm working on, I reread her books just to get in the mindset. And I would say, like, Jane Austen, like, it's so funny because it's almost like you can't win when you're a fan of Jane Austen and you've written like a Jane Austen inspired book. Jane Austen is the master, and nothing you write will ever compare, but everyone will very gladly compare you to her.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And but I will say in my defense that I love Jane Austen. It is Jane Austen inspired, but it's also, like you mentioned the word farcical. I feel like I was also very much inspired by P.G. Wodehouse is one of my favorite authors, and Oscar Wilde. A lot of plays, like Pygmalion, George Bernard Shaw, that was for the movie My Fair Lady. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, like this hidden identity type thing, and this like and the importance of being earnest. There were 3 engagements, by the end of the play, it was a very short play. So I feel like sometimes the Jane Austen purists, they read like Mr. Malcolm's List and they say, well, this isn't how it would be in Austen's time. And it's true, because my book is much more farcical. So it's got some elements to it that are a little outrageous and, humorous, and are there really just to make people laugh. Whereas Jane Austen, I think, was so hilarious, but her humor was, not necessarily, she was more ironic and sarcastic, and I don't know. She was one of the geniuses of, the last, I don't know how many years, but anyway, she's amazing. But it was inspired by her, but I will say that I had other inspirations as well, so that people shouldn't do like a apples comparison to Jane Austen. Please don't do that. I will lose every time.
Yeah. I know. I think that the only person that could beat Jane Austen is Jane Austen.
Yes,
exactly. Okay, so I know that you just are in the throes of a deadline right now, or finishing up one, but are you a pantser or a plotter?
What was the first one?
Oh, a pantser. It means that you just kind of write free will, or a plotter where you have to make an outline.
Oh, okay. I haven't heard that. I mean, I've heard plotter, but I write free will. So was it pantser? P-A-N-C?
Pantser, like you're writing at the seat of your pants.
Oh, now I get it. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm a little slow.
No, it's okay.
Yes, I am definitely writing to see my pants. It's so funny because I try to be a plotter because I just know my life would be so much more, so much easier. And I do plot, I do very loose plots where I'll come up, I'll come up with, well, I have to, because they make you turn in like, kind of a summary before you start the book, and then they approve it. So I do have like a loose outline, but I'm not one of those people who write who have everything plotted out and then just go and start writing. I feel like a lot of my writing is fueled by research. So, and it's funny because the thing that I think I'm researching, I'll start researching it and I'll go down this rabbit hole, and then I'll never even write about that. But but just the research gets me in that era. And then, I don't know, some of it is just so funny. Some of the real things, like I read a lot of I'll read like journals from the era, and I don't know, just some of the things that, you know, probably if any of you guys are Regency romance fans, you've probably heard about the controversy over the waltz and how it was just such a terrible dance, and, you know, it was too fast or immoral for London ballrooms. But I just found this quote the other day where this man was like, I could care less about the waltz. There's no, you know, what's, other than it giving you indigestion, what's the big deal, basically? It's like, it's the quadrille. That dance is terrible, you know. Anyway, I can't remember the whole quote, but the quote itself was just so hilariously funny. So I just love finding these little things, and then even if I don't use them, it just, I don't know, it just somehow sparks something, and then I can go and write, and then a scene develops, and then sometimes the scene just pops into my head, you know, once you're in the zone. So I think the hardest thing is to get into that zone and stay in it. But then, and especially this year with, you know, what's been going on in the world, it's much harder to get inspired to write comedy, you know, light romantic comedy. But I've been trying to find other thing. Like I've been watching some stand-up comedy. So I love Nate Bargatze, and I actually watched, this was older, but it was from 2013, but Mike, I'm not gonna be able to remember, what was his, Mike
Birbiglia?
My girlfriend's boyfriend. And it's really interesting if you think of it as a script. Stand-up comedy as being an entire monologue, a one-person show. My girlfriend's boyfriend, it was amazing. Like he went back and forth through time, and then he just came back to the beginning again at the very end and tied it all together. So, and like I mentioned, I like dialogue. So that is a form, you know, I like the spoken word. So somebody mentioned Hamilton. I watched Hamilton recently too. I love that. Musicals help to try to inspire me because, you know, like with Hamilton, it was so obvious that he was so conscious about his word choice, you know, and that's how musicals are for the lyrics. So, and it's the way it sounds, you know, as well as the meaning. And so when I write too, you know, I try to read it aloud and kind of get the rhythm, and especially if it's going to be a screenplay, because that is just so important that it, you know, the way it sounds is really, I don't know, pleasing as well.
I was curious about that actually, if you read out loud while you were writing or acted out any of your scenes.
I do sometimes. My poor husband recently, I was like, sit down next to me.
I need a beta listener.
I made him pretend he was like next to me at the theater, and like I don't know. I was like, is this even work for? And then one time I made him dance with me. So and then sometimes I read it out loud to him. So I feel bad for him because I don't know if he could ever actually read one of my books because he's heard like portions of it like all along the way. But yeah, I do. I don't read the whole entire thing out loud because that would, you know, well, it would take like the amount of time an audiobook, which is like 6 or 7 hours. But I do read portions of the dialogue out loud and, you know, change words but especially if it's a script. That's what was so cool when they did the table read for Mr. Malcolm's List, because I got to hear it by actors. And that's probably the best thing. I mean, if any author could have a table read of their book or script or whatever every time, that would obviously be the most effective for helping them revise their draft. But yeah, I do read it myself.
Cool. All right. Well, Suzanne, we have, we're going to switch over from our recorded part to our off the record Q&A for our follow-up questions. But before I let you go and turn off the recording, how can readers find out more about you and stay in touch with you?
I'm on Instagram. That's probably my most active form of social media, and it's Suzanne.Allain on Instagram. And I'm also on Twitter. That might just be Suzanne Allain without the dot. And I have a Facebook account, but I really don't go there very often. Maybe I check in occasionally. So I'd say probably Instagram is a good way. And I've got a few behind the scenes pictures from the filming of the short. If you do go and check out my Instagram account, that might be fun.
Well, great. Well, Suzanne, thank you so much. And we really appreciate that you're going to stay for a couple extra minutes to take more questions.
Yeah, thank you.